Hi, I'm back. It's been a year. Lots happened. Had my MacBook destroyed by someone hacking it. So now I'm using this old PC. It is what it is. Let's get back to where I left off. The election. I know. But the most important thing happened. What was supposed to happen was that people had to get up and get out and vote. And because so many people voted for Trump, it sent a message that went all the way out into the galaxy. It's part of the 100 monkey thing. When you get that many people wishing for a better world and then physicalizing it by voting, it created something that actually cemented us to the correct timeline. That's what did it. I know it was tough the first 3 days afterwards. We went back and forth between the bad timeline and the good timeline for 3 days, because part of the problem is that when you are a good person, you have to allow the negative to have their say. You have to give them the opportunity to prove themselves. But what always happens is that you give the negative side the opportunity and they blow it. And that's what happened. And so by the Saturday night after the election, we were solidly locked into the positive timeline. Now I know, there's the whole trauma of what happened with the inauguration. It's okay. That was meant to be. Had Trump actually gone into office at that time, we would have had a civil war. There are, as you know, the number 17, quantum computers. You've heard all about it, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about how it works. There are humans and there are extraterrestrials, and they have the ability to do something that we call social psychology. It goes way beyond social psychology, actually, because they can see alternate timelines. Many people, including myself, can step out of our space-time continuum and we can see alternate paths. But it's a tough job, and that's why having the quantum computer is so useful. It doesn't tell us necessarily what to do. The social psychologists ask it, if we do this, this, and this, what's the outcome? And it comes back basically with percentages. It's a lot like way back, Matthew Broderick in the movie with the war games. Do you want to play a game? It's like that. But once you're on the correct timeline, as we are, then it becomes just refining it, becomes a dance. And basically, the white hats step in, and in some cases, they replace some of the actors that are the bad guys with their own, as we have seen recently with a certain president. And then also, sometimes they just allow the bad guys to have enough rope to hang themselves. They say, oh, yeah, go for it. Go ahead, do what you want to do. Just wait and see. Because the reason why is that we leave no one behind. And part of what we're trying to do here is wake up all the people that are still asleep. So there are many of us that are awake. For some, it's because we've actually experienced this before. We recognize it. For some, it's because they have had lives specific to being inoculated, so that when we come to the now, where we have so many mental plagues surrounding us, and I have listed them in a blog on my website, but a mental plague, for example, was foot binding. Another mental plague was the clitorectomies occurring in the Arab states. Mental plague was Hitler's blonde syndrome. And now we have, of course, the mental plague of the pedos, and that's a big one. And also we have the smaller ones, such as those people who seek fame and fortune. That's a very insidious one. And so one of the things that we actually look for are people who have been trained to do this, have had other lives, experiences in other worlds where we've gone through the ascension process, or on other planets where we've gone through the ascension process. And we are born into human bodies, and we eventually wake up. Now, the first stage of waking up is being able to see through all the crap that's going on out there. Like, we believe in the First Amendment and the Second Amendment and the Constitution, and we know that America is it. We are the country that has to stand strong for the whole world. We know this. But we also know that getting through the propaganda, getting through the subliminal messaging, there are those who are innocent, people we love, whom we want to awaken so that they can go through ascension as well. Now, some of them may go through ascension even if they're still blinded, just because they're such good people. And then they'll be like, oh yeah, okay. But many of them are awakening now. And I do believe we're finally over 80%, which is why I can finally start communicating again. It's actually now safer for me to do so. What I want to do is I want to tell you about some of my childhood experiences, because I think that that will give people a great deal of hope, and also will wake up a number of people who have had the same experiences but don't remember them. Why is it that I've started to remember them? Part of it is the fact that the Schumann resonance is going up and up and up. And so the vibrational energy of the Schumann resonance rising matches the energy that I was experiencing when I had these amazing opportunities as a child. When I say opportunities, I was able to go onto ET craft that were very positive ETs, starting when I was 4 years old. And I went to school, and sometimes I'd be there for a few days, weeks. I've even spent several months on an ET craft. And then I was always brought back to my actual body the same moment that I was taken away. So no, my body didn't leave my bed. What I traveled in was what I call a travel body. And I would remain in that travel body, and it was a higher dimensional body. And it's just like I am right now, a human, a person. So was I still a person in that body, had the same feelings, everything. And my first memory is going onto an ET craft, and what I thought were angels all around me, but they were actually humans and other ETs that As far as I was concerned, they were all human. You know, they just all felt wonderful and like angels or beautiful, beautiful people. As I got older, yeah, there were some that were kind of taskmasters and they weren't so um, etherically beautiful. But when I was a little kid and in the nursery, they only gave us the really like the ones that floated around and were just so maternal and loving. And I remember the first experience I had was that there was a young girl from India who was a mathematician, and there was a young boy from France. He was a sculptor, or was we were going to grow up to be these things. Actually, we were 4 years old, and at that point in time, I was considered to be a musician. And the interesting thing was that the little girl had been born around 1930, and the little boy had been born around 1983, and I was born in 1952. And the reason, and they explained this to us, was that by having children from three different times, that we were being taken out of our Earth space-time continuum. We were kind of in this never land of ether out there. And it was a safe place for us because we certainly couldn't stay in our solar system or we would have been, attacked by what we had for airplanes at the time. And what they said was that if everybody had come from 1952 and they tried to bring us back to our specific timeline, there would have been around 5 timelines where I existed that all looked alike. But by having children from 2 other timelines, 2 other birth times in our space-time continuum, it meant that they could use the information that they got from each of us to pinpoint the exact timeline to return us all to, because each one varies from, say, the 30s to the 50s to the 80s, and so they could tell. Now, I remember that the little girl from India was incredibly shy and so scared, and she was really beautiful, but we all telepathed with everyone from the minute we got there because our teachers were continually telepathing with us, and it was so easy to do that. And as children, we just instinctively went right into being telepaths without questioning it. But we noticed that the little girl from India was so shy. And so what happened was that we were plunked down in front of this, what looked like a giant TV set on the wall. But it was a looking glass. And it was wonderful because you could hear the sounds and you could smell the smells as well. And where we were sent, we ended up remote viewing into it instinctively, but where we were shown was India, a jungle environment in the 1930s near the home of this little girl. And she recognized it and she got so excited and so happy. And we were enthralled. And so she was able to be proud and just show us where she lived. And we were just like, wow. And so we became friends after that. And eventually I will share with you many of the things that I saw in that looking glass. At a certain point in time when we were still children, we were shown Jesus alive, giving a lecture, talking to people around a fire, just sitting and talking. Well, he would call it telling stories. But underneath it, I could see that it was a teaching like a teacher. And I think he knew that we were there because at one point he just looked at us where we would be located, and he just gave us a little smile. And we just felt it just go through us like, oh, he knows we're here. Of course he would know he was here. We were there. He's Jesus. He was so advanced. He just knew. And there's so much more I can tell you about that, but that's a whole nother video by itself. And we saw so many things. We saw George Washington. We saw Lafayette. We saw France. We saw the wars. We saw so many, many wars and moments of glory. But we also saw the quiet things. We saw Nostradamus thinking. And we could read his thoughts, of course, because we were in that dimension where we were telepathic. And so we could see how he was thinking about how to create his quatrains. And we could see how he did the astrological readings. I became an astrologer from about the age 6 on. I think that was one of the things that inspired me. And then there was one time that was really, really scary because we were being attacked. Someone had actually tried to find us, knew that we were out there. And what happened was that all of a sudden there was like the lights went out and the ship was organic. And we were in different ships. Like there was one ship that was like a tree, and there was one ship that was like a whale, and there was one ship that was just, like beautiful, sleek, almost sort of like a living metal. And so we experienced different living organic ships. Anyway, we were suddenly the lights went out and the teachers came in and they were like, we could just read their minds of danger. Shh, be quiet. And the next thing I knew, I was back in my bed. And I realized that they had basically cooked us all unconscious so that we would be very quiet. And when it was safe, they just returned us to our beds. And I know school was cut short that time. What you need to know is that we are members of the Galactic Federation. When we were young, we were not allowed to be because there were so many problems. We were still on the negative timeline that was created by the bad guys also having a looking glass. And as I mentioned in another video, we were starting to have our birth pains that probably could have sped up our ascension to actually around 2012. But because of the World Trade Center being built and it opened in 1970, that's when everything went quiet and all of the birth pangs stopped. And that slowed us down, and that sent us into a trajectory of a bad timeline. And so at that point in time, we were told, you're not going to join the Galactic Federation. But I think one of the most remarkable things is George Bush Jr. I'll never forget watching him when he was being told about what happened with the World Trade Center. And he just looked around and like, what am I supposed to do? And he looked so obviously like if he had been a real president and this was a reality, he would have jumped up and said, excuse me, children, I have to go now. But no, instead he did what he did, which was continue to read this book. And I knew right at that moment, it was an FF. And you guys know what an FF is. I will not say it. But sometimes I wonder if he actually had a positive higher self that just could not allow him to be devious and nasty and play the game the way he was supposed to. And I wonder, you know, there are good people who are plunked down into positions of being the bad guys. Sometimes because it's just a lesson that they have to learn to go on to become a guardian of the galaxy, because you cannot become a guardian of the galaxy unless you've also experienced being bad, because how else would you know the duality and balance, which is what we seek, is balance. But yeah, and that kind of destroyed the whole thing for the bad guys, because everybody started figuring out that the whole thing was and so once that happened, it all just went. And so we were able to join the Galactic Federation. Now I know this for a fact because I know someone who was asked and tasked by the US military to remote view the protocols, customs of the ETs whom they would be meeting when they actually went to the Galactic Federation first meeting. And my personal thought was, why didn't they just ask Alex Collier? But anyway, you know, the military is the military and they do things their own way. And I love the military. I do. And they're getting better and better and better. And now that we have the Space Force, it's going to be unbelievably great. And I stand by them, but they've had to expand their minds a great deal. And I think that they have since we joined the Galactic Federation. And right now we have so many ships surrounding our Earth and out in our solar system. And we are really brangling. I mean, there's a war out there. We're still at war with the bad guys, the AI, and the AI that have infected the Draco, and of course the tall grays and all of the nasty grays. And that does remind me, it was reported that we just captured some grays, some of the tall grays. There are a number of people on this earth who have alters, who have been captured and are being tortured. And the idea is that by torturing them, they are also torturing those of us who are connected to them here on Earth or elsewhere. And we need to find them. It's a little bit like being tortured, like in the Stargate SG-1 episode, with the way that they could actually continue to bring people back from death and then re-torture them. And it's a little bit like the movie with Vin Diesel, the name I forget at the moment, but that prison that he escaped from, which was what we need, is a Vin Diesel out there. Anyway, but our minds combined with prayer can fix all of this. And as we go up with the Schumann resonance, our prayers get stronger and louder and more effective. And where it used to take 100 people to pray, we can now do it with 10 people. That's all you need. You just need to focus on the same thing. You know, I know it's wonderful when you have tens of thousands of people focusing on world peace. That's great. But we need to have some specifics here. Like, let's specifically get our altars freed from those bad guys, because we need them back. And they haven't cracked. They're amazing, but they're in terrible pain. And they're causing terrible pain to some of us. And I know some of the people that are on morphine patches and just struggling to survive because of the fact that they're taking away the pain from their altars so that their altars live. So I'm going to end this now with one other voice of hope. I had a really bad year. I did not get the dreaded plague. I actually had that way back in March of 2020, and I have antibodies and I'm great. And obviously I'm not doing this. And obviously I don't think it's a good idea. But I did become extremely ill. I was exposed to something, I don't know what, and I finally got over it. And one of the things that helped me get over it, believe it or not, was the fact that I joined David Nino Rodriguez's patriotic movement. And it was incredible. It was like the best thing I've ever done, really, in the past, I don't know how many years, because I've met so many incredible people as a result. I have met so many patriots. I have met so many people that are going, well, we're all going through the same thing. It's the same energy affecting all of us, and everyone is, suffering one way or another. I met this beautiful couple, their grandparents, and they can't see their grandchildren anymore because the parents won't let the grandchildren see their grandparents because the grandparents did not get. I have met people who are totally out of work and are now surviving and will end up making a lot of money. I myself was destitute. I was down to my last $100. I'm doing okay. So it's honest. It's not one of those really bad things like, I don't want to say the name, but probably many of you have tried doing some of these things and said, oh, it's just like that. No, it's not. It's a really good, very honest situation. I would not recommend it if it were not. But if you do, go over to Telegram, check out Nino Rodriguez, and he has sometimes puts up the thing that you can sign up for it. And I would do it, if nothing else, just so that we can all meet each other, because it gives an opportunity for those of us to meet you. And I tried to do that with my school. I was trying to find all the sleeper cells of all of the people who have been trained. I mean, I was shown this by advanced ETs, who, by the way, were also avian. I have no idea if they were blue because they were cloaked and had these big avian headdress thingies on that looked like what the Tibetan monks used to wear in some of the older pictures of them. Yeah, I wasn't able to do it through my school. And ironically, I'm meeting you guys through this Nino's patriotic movement. And that's a good thing, because I'm here to help you guys remember and wake up. So I say good night, and I'll see you again soon.